Reducing the content of RBE by removing the abstract part and solving problems of interpretations in a global plan. Remontis Juadelis. 2023, November 3. Stavanger, Norway. From 2020 at the beginning, I began to analyze why some regional coordinators RC get angry or do not communicate with each other and start creating new directions, instead of working together on resource-based economy. Why do some regional coordinators trust the government as if they have never heard of the Venus project, while others do not trust at all and do not wait for the government to offer a solution? I went to Kaunas University of Technology KTU, to Ruta Marcinkevičiūtė, chairwoman of the Social Sciences and Humanities Committee, a linguist with many years of experience, to learn more about general semantics. I had a suspicion that the problem was in our language and specifically in the symbols we use. After all, the future discussed by Jacques Fresco is primarily associated with a new thinking model and its own value system, and not with architectural prototypes, the solutions proposed by J. Fresco for the entire infrastructure. A new pattern of thinking may have fundamental connections with the symbolic language we use. Ruta is a member of IGS Institute of General Semantics. She wrote an article in D. Berlin's book, E'3, published in 1997, and wrote something about the use of the verb to be in Lithuanian. In fact, Borland's entire book, not 1 but 3, was devoted to the discussion of that verb. It went down in the history of general semantics as an E' program in the English language, whose essential point is not to use the verb to be. Basically, those books were based on the 1925 work of the Polish mathematician A. Korzybski, with the proprietary structural differential and formulas in Science and Sanity. The point is that D. Berland suggests not describing reality in words, but expressing experience in those words. It means to say not as it is, but, as I see, in my experience, as it seems to me. It does not mean that you are using inductive methods, it means representing experience, not reality, in symbolic language. So instead of, there is a spirit, we say, I've never seen a spirit and I don't know what you mean by that. If it is an airplane flying, we say, I hear an airplane, but we do not say that there is an airplane there. If it is the smell of pine or thuja, we say what we smell, not what the smell is. D. Berland suggests not using the verb to be in English at all. He suggests not doing this at all for the sake of simplicity, but not all moods of this verb cause problems. If it seems unclear, then the situation where to be should not be used is expressed by a logical chain. A logical chain means that logic is used as a constituent chain of a sentence. J. Fresco's speech has a fully used logical link to be in context. Of course, Lance Straight, director of the Institute of General Semantics IGS, claims that he uses to be and does not see a problem with it. G. Horowitz, who is associated with radical general semantics, does not mind the use of to be in speech. The developers of general semantics themselves agree that context should also be considered, not just symbols. J. Fresco agrees that you need to analyze the context. But the essential thing is that most of semanticists and J. Fresco suggests giving priority to talking about events or processes that take place in nature, and not about the fact that something exists and remains unchanged, as happened with utopia. And G. Horowitz similarly quotes A. Korzybski. E' can be accepted, but the main approach of GS is to rely primarily not on changing phrases, but on working with structural differences and devices that change the approach to language. So why then, if the use of to be does not interfere, regional coordinators often get angry and leave? I concluded that it interferes in this sense. The attitude to language, as Alfred Korzybski quoted, seems not changed when to be is used. So basically this means that the problem we have not with the verb, but rather with a lack of technical training in the discipline of general semantics in general. Regional coordinators do not learn general semantics as much as it is necessary not only for paraphrasing without to be, but also generally to stay at the event level, no matter what the topic is. When you speak, you must refer to formulas such as those described in Science and Sanity by Alfred Korzybski. The language should feel clean. The formulas seems necessary for you to feel like a critical skeptic in real time. It's people getting mad and leave the resource-based economy, plan for an insufficient education in the science of general semantics. We want to act in a generalist way to see the system from the perspective of as many scientific disciplines as possible. A cursory study of general semantics, with a proper interpretation of it alone, does not solve mentioned behavioral problems. Let's talk about practical examples. J. Fresco said, "Love is an unconscious word. Love is fluctuated." People interpret the first sentence in different ways because it belongs to existential knowledge, while the next one belongs to the level of events. So, the first causes problems in communication. You yourself are unconscious. Therefore, we can formulate the problem: some people do not listen to J. Fresco. Meanwhile, others say, "Yeah, that's complete nonsense, he thinks a lot like me," and keep listening. But you need to know that no one knows what "love is an unconscious word" means, although they repeat what they heard to everyone as if it meant something. Only the second sentence, "love is fluctuated," means anything, but not the first. The former imposes on Tame a contrary sounding opinion, and this separates men from one another. In practice, only the second sentence applies. A quote from J. Fresco in another source: "There is another unconscious word called love. Don't be angry with me, listen. If you say, 'The word love seems unconscious,' you should not ask them not to be angry. Well, you would only say what you think, but you wouldn't identify how it really is, you wouldn't impose your opinion, which in this case is expressed through the verb, to be. But I wouldn't say, to paraphrase, 'Love seems like an unconscious word,' although it sounds significantly better. But I would say, the word, love, is ambiguously interpreted. I would only talk about events or processes happening in nature and they wouldn't get mad about it. Imagine if you told a people the following opinion: science does not impart intelligence, only knowledge. Why are you studying at the university? If God didn't put a mind, the cow won't do shit. But don't be angry with me. It doesn't show him a technique how not to feel angry. If a people do not feel angry, it is only because of body language, which says that people does not look at you as an enemy or a fool. However, you usually create conflicts or misunderstandings if you express an opinion that is different from the other people's. So, another problem: conflicts. J. Fresco says, "Most of our language is empty." Some think, "Who are you, who could explain what my language is?" Jacques Fresco does not see a problem with this, apparently because of the triangle of reference. This is described in the book, The Meaning of Meaning, by Charles K. O. and I. A. Richard. And this has the following meaning: you have to ask, what do you mean by empty language? What do you mean when you say that the virus does not exist? What do you mean by the fact that there is no God? Asking questions is seen as a way to communicate constantly. Still, there is no denying that some of the language J. Fresco uses distracts people's curiosity from wanting to know how the world works. If you say, I quote J. Fresco, "There is no such thing as consciousness. Man cannot think or reason," the first sentence will distract curiosity. The second sentence will raise questions and interest the people. But the first completely distracts from our desire to learn more and ask those questions. Because we won't find any answer there, where the approach to language means existential awareness. I'm speaking in the old language of the people because you're not yet familiar with those techniques, Fresco says. Also elsewhere he states, in the old language it is almost impossible to convey ideas. And here I came to the conclusion, or maybe we should teach only technical language, if the rest is almost impossible to communicate. Because it would seem reasonable that, you speak in old ways, therefore I also tell you I say accordingly. But how much will it convey information about new methods if it is almost impossible to convey ideas in the old language? The technical language is already applied, engineering drawing. Each engineer interprets this language unambiguously. So I thought, what if we taught continuously clearly, like a drawing? Maybe you need to speak the language that seems as clear as possible, and not the one that is new. J. Fresco statement that opinions are very dangerous has the verb to be in its construction. It does not describe any process, but an existential level, and it is classified as an opinion that is not tested in practice. Better to say, if you use opinions, buildings can collapse. My subsequent research, which I conducted with hundreds of people from 2020 to 2023, didn't show that the latter quote was unclear to anyone, and J. Fresco quote that opinions are very dangerous was fundamentally problematic. My research has shown that people's value systems do not match the latter quote. And that means people don't want to talk about it today. But if you say, the language is new, then people can interpret what that means in different ways. Another problem is that some of the ideas J. Fresco shares do not serve the purpose of conveying information. They are jackass. They are conditioned to accept naivety. J. Fresco. The sentence, they are jackass, conveys no information and is classified as existential knowledge, while the second sentence, they are conditioned to accept naivety, refers to events. My studies show that only the latter formulation should be used. As the administrators of the Venus Project put it, if you speak a new language, you speak in a rumble they don't understand. According to this view, saying people are dumb or jackass is necessary to convey ideas about what the future might look like. The problem is not new or old language. One of J. Fresco listeners filmed himself in Teletubby clothes. Concepts of the future are presented as infantile as possible. Mickey Mouse is not exempt. J. Fresco is drawn as a caricature with enlarged ears, ostensibly to pitch the Venus Project to those people because I speak their language. But it seems unacceptable to me. Dressing up as a Teletubby and filming the Venus Project presentation is unlikely to interest someone who wants to know about engineering or public planning. You will only be interested in the kindergarten teacher who wants to know about the Teletubby's costume, where you bought it. The problem is that people do not need, but the information should be presented as accurately as possible, like a drawing. This is the conclusion of my research. You cannot fully trust the Venus Project because they have a marketing system designed to sell their products. Marketing can use the verb, to be, as a key tool. Nonprofit organization means that their goal is not profit, but the concept of profit, to me means money with which I will buy food, pay for heating and shelter. All organizations appear to be for profit. They don't open an organization for you for free, you have to pay all kinds of maintenance fees because you are dependent on money. Therefore, do not look with great confidence in this organization. Be able to distinguish which information is not needed. As for the need for technical language, the Great Depression of 1929 caused such movements as communism, fascism, technocracy, the United Nations or Eastern philosophy. People lost confidence in their political leaders and began to seek alternative social directions. Although they failed to eliminate various problems, such as nationalism or sexism, this showed their increased desire to solve problems. You can see an increased desire in children who grow up with parents who drink and scream every day or parents who abuse them. Such children, it has been observed, are more inclined to solve problems because they face them. If only they were told about the right direction to solve problems, then they don't go nowhere. It seems impossible to go nowhere. You can take drugs or drink, that looks clearer. The rest of the people will say, you're talking about your problems again. Can't even sit still anymore, or, what you say is completely correct and logical, but I don't feel good about it. You should not try to convince people, but develop new systems or technologies. Trying to change one human can take a lifetime. Creating something new in that lifetime can change billions or millions. Thus, a resource-based economy is considered a technical plan. Reducing the content of RBE by removing the abstract part can solve the problems of interpretations in the global plan.